Good afternoon and welcome to Fur, Fins, and Feathers. This is our 30th broadcast, and we're delighted to have two guests today. We have Barbara Meehan from Wareham, Massachusetts, and Maureen Walker from New Bedford, who has an English Springer Spaniel. Both ladies have very interesting stories to tell, and Barbara is going to talk about the Memory Cafe. Barbara, can you tell us a little about Memory Cafe and what
Well, memory cafes
this is all about?
held for people with all levels of memory loss and their care partners. I volunteer at two. One is at Acushnet Council on Aging, and the other one is at the Meehan Council on Aging. And it's an opportunity for individuals to come with their care partners and interact socially. It's really important when people start having memory loss, there is a tendency for them to become isolated. So our memory cafes actually meet every week. We do one, we have lunch, the other is later in the day, and we have snacks. But we then have an activity. It might be music, bingo, crafts, or animals, which is one of the most popular things that happen at the Memory Cafe is when you bring in animals of any kind. I think there's something inside a person, even if their memory has started to go, there's something inside that still remembers that feeling of how special maybe pets were that they had, or just how special pets are. Animals don't judge you. Just because you can't remember your birthday, they still think you're fine. And I've seen, we've had the dogs at Acushnet a couple of times, and people just love it. And at Meehan, we've actually had some farm animals, and I watch people sit and hold a baby chick and just sit there with a smile on their face because it's so calming and it's, I don't know, it's peaceful. It makes them feel good. And I know for me, just even holding the baby animals, I have cats, holding an animal does something to you inside, I think, that makes you...
Gives you a warm, cozy.
Yeah, warm, calm. But the memory cafes are so incredibly important for people with memory loss.
And it's a growing problem throughout this country.
Yes, it is. There are 5.5 million people in the United States with Alzheimer's or related dementias, and about 130,000 in Massachusetts. So it is. It's a growing problem. We just had our South Coast Walk to End Alzheimer's in Fall River on Saturday, which was a huge success. And when you see the number of people that are there, we just had, the week before, we had the Plymouth Walk, and there were 2,500 people at it. We had a little over 1,000 at BCC. But Boston is just, I mean, it's massive because there are so many families taking care of someone. And the nice thing about the Walk to End Alzheimer's is it's very pet friendly. So people bring their dogs, and we actually had someone at Plymouth who had his cat in a backpack. I can't figure out how, because I have cats that would never abide that. But the dogs are so popular. Last year we had a dog there, my co-chair's grand dog, as she calls Callie, who sang along to the national anthem.
Oh.
Which, fortunately, the young woman singing did not mind. Callie didn't sing this year, but it's just, you know, the dogs are just so welcoming, and they make people, I think, feel good.
Maureen, share your experience
Oh,
with the Memory Cafe people.
I have two dogs, so this one went the second time, and the people, I'm going to tear up. The people share the memories. Oh, I had a Springer Spaniel when I was a kid, and blah, 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 you know, or whatever breed of dog happens to be there. There's always someone who connects
They love
to it.
the dogs.
Oh, they do. They do. And What are you looking at me for? Huh? Anyway, it's a very heartwarming experience because they share their stories and their memories, and that leads into other conversations, and it's just a very pleasant time. Stop, Hardy.
He's like,
They
Anyway.
relate to dogs that they've had in the past.
Yes.
yeah, and it isn't even just, it doesn't, it's maybe other pets.
It opens
Even when we've had
conversations.
the farm animals, people will relate to that and say, oh, I always wanted to have whatever, a baby goat. I want a baby goat.
I do too. A miniature.
Yes, a little goat. But
I wanted to take that pot-bellied pig home today.
but they have, there's just something there that an animal triggers in a person. I think it triggers it in most of us who are
Yeah.
mentally balanced, that animals are just, I spend more time looking at animal videos on Facebook
Me
than
too.
I really should. I mean, the minute I see, baby goats, and I've seen the baby goats in their jammies so many times, or the kittens, because I'm a cat person, puppies, pandas, I don't care. There's something in us, just inherent in us that says, part of it's I want to help take care of it, and reminds you of maybe when you were younger, and especially for people with memory loss, my guess is it takes them back to maybe a time that was better, because they can't remember now, but they can remember back when they had pets of whatever kind. So, and I remember I wasn't there when Hardy came, but I was there when your other one came, and people just love, what kind of dog is it? And that was the thing, is there was a lot of interaction between the dog owners and the people with memory loss and their care partners, asking questions and saying, what kind of dog is that?
How
And
old?
How old, yeah. And
What really impressed me was a couple of the ladies or gentlemen that were there got thinking back, and they remembered dogs in their past, and they were interested in learning about the different breeds.
yeah. And I know that the time when they did some agility stuff, people were fascinated with that if they hadn't seen it before. I've watched it on television, but I know a lot of people hadn't seen it, and that was really interesting. And then just the whole thing of, when the dog is well trained and knows what to do.
We had very
Unlike cats.
we
that
had
do as
very
they
well
please.
trained dogs, and they were all well behaved, and people came up to me afterwards and they said, could we come back? Of course we can bring them back, because they loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's people. They always ask memory cafes when we have the farm animals. People always want to have them come back. And I worked at the nursing home part-time when my partner was in residence there, and we would have barn babies, and oh my goodness, that was just, it was just a mob of people because everybody wanted to see. We had baby kittens, baby rabbits, French silk chickens, ducklings, a baby goat, and everybody just wanted to see all of that. And they just, even the most unpleasant residents, give them a little bunny wrap swaddled, and they turn into this mushy, look how cute he is, he kissed me. And, it's just like it's a whole other person. So, yeah, there is something that animals do that I think is so incredibly valuable. Hardy.
There were a couple of men who didn't like dogs.
Right.
But they came, and within 20 minutes, they were petting the dogs and playing with them and wanted to learn about them and things.
Right.
So it's a wonderful
Oh,
experience.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think, some people are fearful of dogs for whatever reason, but I think when they see how well behaved these dogs are too. But people have their animal fears.
Well, a lot of that stems back to childhood.
Right, when something happens.
Somebody didn't watch their dog and the dog knocked the kid over.
Right.
And then they have the fear.
I just think it's really valuable. The more exposure they have. Last year I broke my leg, and I had a friend bring me a meal, and so after she came in and she sat in the chair with her hands folded, and I'm like, "What's wrong?" And she said, "I'm afraid of cats." And I'm looking at my Annie, who weighs about 6 pounds. And Annie, I said, "She just wants you to pet her and tell her she's pretty." And I said, "What I don't understand is this young woman who was afraid of my little 6-pound cat owns a 150-pound Italian Mastiff." And I'm like, "Nancy, are you kidding me? You have this giant dog?" She said, "Well, that's different." I said, "Annie's not going to do anything." But, there was probably something in her past. But I saw with the Memory Cafe, people warmed up really quickly to the dogs, or to any animals that we have.
Just sit, Hardy.
He said, "Nobody's talking about me."
I know.
Well, there are more and more people being diagnosed
Yes.
with memory disorders.
Yes. And probably the saddest are the people diagnosed with younger onset, which is under 65. And I have some really good friends now who I've met through being an Alzheimer's advocate, who are in their 50s, and they have some form of dementia, Lewy body dementia, Alzheimer's, frontal temporal lobe dementia. And the sad thing is that we know, all of these diseases are terminal. There's no cure, there's no prevention, there's no effective treatment. And, so that's part of why I do what I do is because we'd like to see an end. When you see, a 10-year-old whose dad or mom has younger onset. My friend Marissa's mom was diagnosed, Marissa was just a freshman in college. She was 18 and her mom was diagnosed at 56 with younger onset, frontal temporal dementia. It's just, because then you have to pretty much make all of the plans that you kind of put off till late. You think, "Oh yeah, I've got plenty of time to do that stuff." Only now
It's never too late.
you got to do it right away.
It's never too early.
Too early.
Yeah.
either. And
Yeah.
it's not too late to get involved in different activities.
Oh yeah.
No, that's true. That's very
Yeah.
true.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We have many people from the Wampanoag Kennel Club who have come down and generously donated their time and brought their dogs, and that was really, really interesting.
It was. Even though my little female was not of the best temperament for a couple dogs, but I don't know what her problem is. But Hardy was a good boy.
She had a few things to say. That was the thing. She was.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one we just had recently on a Saturday, a former student of mine came with her 2 Chesapeake Bay Retrievers.
Was it Annie?
No, it was one of the dogs was from Annie's grandmother's
Right.
place, but
They were Poisson dogs.
and the other one was Zoe was from Maryland, but she's trying to get them socialized, and they were barking. They're really loud, and I just saw Annie Henshaw this weekend, and Annie, I was telling her, she said, "Oh, Chessies don't have an inside voice. They just have outside voices."
Sounds like Annie.
Yeah, and but it was great. It was good for the dogs, I think, to have that, exposure to other dogs. And a couple, I watched the boxer who was there, Lucy, immediately train one of Heather's daughters was there, and the next thing you know, she's laying on the floor with Lucy, rubbing Lucy's tummy. And I said, oh, well, Lucy trained her really quickly, didn't she? But it's hard to ignore them, really, you know?
Some of the people that were there and their caregivers, some of them wanted to bring one of the dogs home. They said, oh, we can add him to our family.
Yeah.
They had fun with them.
We had one when we had at the Meehan Memory Cafe, we had the farm animals, and they had a Great Pyrenees with them, who was lovely. Her name was Bianca, and she was so sweet. And so one of the ladies with memory loss was holding the leash, and the farmer came over and said, would you mind if I take her over because so-and-so would like to pet her? This one was like, no. And he's like, well, we could just, just let me no. So finally, the way we managed to get them to was, he said, how about if you walk her over? But she had attached herself to that dog, and she wasn't letting go of that leash.
Yeah, and Great Pyrenees are lovely temperaments.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah. They need a job, though.
She
they
was
need to herd.
Well, that's what.
and
Yeah,
protect.
that's what's interesting. I just recently met Australian cattle dogs, and I asked their owner, and he said, well, yeah, they have to. You need to be able to let them run someplace.
They need a job.
Yeah, they need a job. And I know, a lot of the shepherds, that's what they want to do. And I sort of always watch the Westminster Dog Show, and it's interesting because I learn a lot about the different breeds and what they were raised for, and that's always kind of interesting. And my sister has a cat who actually, since she was little, loves the dog show. She gets right up on her back legs so she can watch. We don't know what that's about. It's very weird because my sister does not have dogs. The cat has never been out, but she loves the dog show.
Yeah, well, it's the movement.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah. And if you want in a future memory cafe, if it's still kind of warm, 50 degrees or warmer, I could bring my cockatoo. He's missing feathers on his
You
chest.
have a cockatoo?
Yeah, he's 1985. He's 34 years old.
Do you know how much I love those birds?
Oh, and he loves people. I mean, he loves to hug.
That's awesome.
Would he like to come on the to the memory
yes.
cafe?
Oh, that would be
yes,
awesome.
He would. Yes, he would.
Does he talk or squawk a little, or?
Squawks a lot when I get on the phone. Same as this one.
How does he get along with the dogs?
Fine. Well, he's either on top of his cage or in his cage. Hardy, what are you looking for? He thinks there's something underneath
Barbara,
the chair.
can you tell us a little about some of the other activities at
Sure.
the Memory Cafe?
We do bingo, which happens to be my personal favorite because I get to be the caller, which I love doing. At the Marion Bingo, we have candy bar bingo. The prizes are candy bars, but at Acushnet, because we have somebody who is diabetic, we actually have canned good bingo, and that's what the prizes are.
Oh.
Canned goods or staples of different kinds.
No.
We have a lot of musical entertainment, which is very popular. And it's fascinating because people will remember the words to songs, which is wonderful. We do crafts. We've done some great stuff with a woman from out on the Cape, Barbara Greenspan.
Who was a wonderful artist.
We've painted tiles. I just got my tile back. It looks fabulous, if I do say so myself. We've made bowls. Everybody, people just love that. And people even with more advanced dementia, have a good time doing those kinds of things. Sometimes they need assistance, being able to do something. We had a project we did in Marion. We were making St. Patrick's Day wreaths, and I was sitting with a lovely lady who has dementia, who is British, and I said to her, how about I'll hold the end and you can wrap the felt around the wreath. And I said, but I have to tell you, I said, I'm probably shaky because I drink too much coffee. She looked me right in the eye and she said, and that's why you should just drink gin. I was like, oh, I laughed so hard. But it was, it was hilarious. And she just was, we were having such a good time interacting with each other. And she had lived through the Blitz in England. And she actually was able to talk about that with us. And so sometimes the things that come up are, just a complete surprise. We've done word games. We've played Family Feud. Anything to we've also seen some travel films, which people really like. In some cases, you have films of places people have actually been, and they remember that.
Right.
Barbara, where are there memory cafes?
They're really there's a
Are there?
Yeah,
It's a growing movement.
it is a growing movement. There's a huge number in the Boston area, the two I know are the Acushnet and the Marion. There's one in I think it's Fairhaven. There's one in New Bedford that is Portuguese speaking.
Yes,
Which is
I
fabulous.
Heard about that.
That it's Portuguese speaking memory cafe. I know Fairhaven has just started one. They're all different. We're fairly unusual in that both of the ones I volunteer at meet every week. Most it's like once a month. But I think
What about Acushnet?
Acushnet is every week. And Marion is every week, which I think is beneficial for people with memory loss because they get into this routine of, okay, Wednesday afternoon we go to Marion, or Monday afternoon we go to Acushnet, and that sort of stays with them. And we've actually had people who've tried other memory cafes and say, no, I want to go to that first one, which this was Marion, which has been there for 4 years. It's just.
One man asked me if he could come every week to see the dogs.
It's just one of those things. They're huge in the UK. There are a lot of them in England and all over the UK, and it's such a wonderful opportunity for both an individual with memory loss and their care partners. We say, if you're coming, it's not a drop off. You can't drop off your loved one and go off, but they don't have to stay right with them. And so sometimes it gives them an opportunity just to chat with another caregiver. We have volunteers who've been trained, so the volunteers really make an effort to sit with the people who have memory loss, and to help when we have activities. It's a very I think it's a very relaxing situation for the most part. That
It's not stressful.
no, not at all. And I have said often, sadly there were none around here when my partner was still alive and at home, and I know how much she would have loved it, because when people have memory loss, the bigger the crowd, the more difficult it is they get very stressed and agitated. But when you have a memory cafe that's not huge, it's a relaxed atmosphere.
Right.
And then you do something, or you have the dogs, and it's a chance to socialize but not feel overwhelmed, which happens very easily for people with memory loss. And I know I have a couple of friends with younger onset who actually in some situations will put noise blocking headphones on to shut out the chaotic noise if it's a huge crowd.
So tell us about Hardy.
Oh, Hardy is not a good example of a show Springer. He's way too tall, way too
Oh.
heavy.
Hardy, what did you say?
And
But he's well loved.
he is well loved, yes. And he's got a better temperament than my female dog, who never had a temperament problem the, 3.5, 4 years that she was being shown. Never had a problem. We'd sit ringside. Irish Wolfhounds, Great Danes, any breed are standing around and we watch in the ring. It's like, she calms down that way. Never once a peep at another dog. And then she got to be about 4.5 or 5, and she started this. I don't know why. I thought it was maybe another dog looking her straight in the eyes, but that wasn't the case. I thought it was only males. That's not the case. She doesn't do it with all dogs, but Hardy is probably 3 inches taller than a regular Springer and 10 pounds heavier than a male should be. But he's got the 3 inches, so. And I don't know if anybody.
But he's a nice dog.
He's a good
You're
boy.
a good boy. Yes,
And
How old is he?
he is 8.5. So, what was I going to say? And people may not know this. Cocker Spaniels and English Springer Spaniels, that was one breed. There'd be small puppies and large puppies.
Oh.
And then around 1908, they started breeding them to separate them because there was 2 hunting styles. The small dogs, called cockers, Springers jump up. The Cocker Spaniels will go after woodcocks on the ground, and the Springers, they jump when the bird flushes.
That's where the names came from?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Very interesting.
My day is not a waste. I have learned something new. Ah.
So people will often say, "Is that a Cocker Spaniel?" No.
Barbara, how can families learn more about memory cafes?
Well, depending on, certainly you can call the Alzheimer's Association, their helpline, and if you're looking for a memory cafe, they can tell you where they're located. Certainly, if you live in the area where you can call the Marion COA if you live in this area. We have people who come to Marion from Dartmouth.
Very good.
And then you can call the Acushnet COA. A lot depends on the day, the time of day.
Yeah.
I'm being told that
Yeah,
we
wrap it
are
up.
ready
it's
to
time
wrap.
to-
I saw him.
So thank you very much to both Barbara and
Maureen.
Maureen for coming and bringing this lovely Springer. And we'll see you again soon on Fur, Fins, and Feathers.